This exclusive mini-series from the Change Officer podcast is brought to you in partnership with Microsoft Reactor. Stay tuned to find out how Microsoft Reactor can help you build your tech skills and connect you with developers and startups that share your goals.
When people ask me what the Metaverse is, I first just ask them if they've been in it. If you conceptually think about it, you're getting into a chunk of metal and flying in the middle of the sky and crossing oceans at like however many thousands of feet. Do you have people asking, how does it work? Do they need to know exactly how the airplane works to get onto the airplane? You just need to know what is going to be my user experience and how is this going to make my life more interesting or going to solve a problem. If you really are a brand that represents the future, that represents technology, that you want to show that you're really forward looking, this is the time to be bold and brash.
Welcome to the Change Officer podcast's Future of Technology mini-series brought to you by Microsoft Reactor. In this 4-part special edition of the show, we are delving into the latest technology that is shaping the future at an increasingly rapid pace. Join us as we speak to 4 remarkable industry experts and unpack the topics of big data analytics, artificial intelligence, blockchain, and the Metaverse, getting to the bottom of how these technological advancements will affect us, our businesses, and the world at large. It's pretty safe to say that when it comes to Metaverse, most of us feel completely lost. It might even seem like something straight out of science fiction, like Ernest Cline's imaginings of the OASIS in Ready Player One. In this episode, we hope to rid ourselves of our FOMO by demystifying this burgeoning element of Web 3.0. To help us on our quest, we've enlisted the expertise of internationally renowned creative Amrita Sethi. Amrita is the first NFT artist in the Middle East and a Web 3.0 entrepreneur. Come along for the ride as Amrita gives us the lowdown on what Metaverse is and how it works, what it is bringing to the table that will ensure its longevity, and how brands can get their foot in the door early to secure their place in the next generation of internet. This is an unmissable conversation for anyone who wants to stay at the forefront of this technological advancement and understand how they can be a part of the future it is creating. Enjoy. Welcome to the Change Officer, Amrita.
Thank you so much for having me, Vuk.
Thank you for taking the time. I know your schedule is extremely busy. You're flying out tomorrow. You flew in almost yesterday. So thank you for taking the time to join me in this seat.
Well, anything that has got change in it, I'm all about changes.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a never-ending process.
Absolutely. If you don't change, you stay still and you get stuck.
That's it. And congratulations of being one of the spearheaders of the change recently.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a bit of a journey already so far, but ups and downs, but it's fun.
Yeah, so you are at this stage, at least in this part of the world, at least you are one of the few, I call it generation Web 3.0 entrepreneurs. How does it feel to is it lonely? Is it crazy? How is it?
I would say it was very, very lonely at first. And I think now, but it's now getting kind of crowded, but I wouldn't say it's always full of the people that you want at the party, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Because it's starting to attract lots of different people. The opportunists who are coming into the space. There's people who are just jumping in, not even knowing what they're doing, but they just know that they need to be in the Metaverse. And then there are people who read 2 articles and they think they're experts. So it's just interesting to see. For me, I invest my time and energy and into growing, in developing and moving very fast to what is growing. And I feel that I'm going to be here for a very long time after this. So I don't also have, I don't have the rush to make it all happen today, but I'm trying to do things in a way that's organic and true to myself.
There has been a lot of FOMO effect over the previous, especially lately, like the last 2 years, because of a couple of emerging technologies that felt like almost exploded overnight, and most of the people were kind of caught up, like, what's going on? Am I missing something? But as any other technology wave, it is here to stay, and there will be more in the future, and it's never too late, it's never too early, as long as you're willing to commit yourself and explore and learn. And as we discussed with our common friend Simon, it's all about really putting in time to learn about something. Now, I would like to dedicate this episode to the topic of Metaverse. First, I would like to demystify Metaverse for anyone who is kind of lost, or it's demystifying is maybe a big word, but I want to have your 2 cents on Metaverse. How do you describe Metaverse? What is Metaverse? And then we'll go towards more topics of, the value creation Metaverse and the change that is introducing, etc. But how do you describe a Metaverse when someone asks you today, like, what is Metaverse?
Yeah, actually, before, when people ask me what the Metaverse is, I first just ask them if they've been in it, right? Because so many people are talking Metaverse. And, I do quite a lot of talks, and a lot of the time I'll ask them and I'll say, who's actually been into the Metaverse? And they'll probably be like maybe 2 or 1% of the audience normally who've actually been into the Metaverse. And this is also including people who are in the space, right? And so, I'm a big believer of it's always important to learn by doing. And so a lot of the time it's just the action of doing it is what helps, I think, demystify it straight away. Like even things like opening a MetaMask wallet, it literally takes, I think it takes 10 seconds actually to open a MetaMask wallet. But the amount of people just get stuck. I think when you talk about Metaverse, for me, the way I describe it to somebody who doesn't know anything about a proper newbie or from the physical world, I say, imagine you go to a website today, right? And, you're on this website and I'm on this website, but we don't know that we're on the website together at the same time. You could be in Brazil and I could be in Dubai. And so imagine that we're able to go into a website and we're able to, in real time, first of all, see that we are both there. But then we're actually able to see each other both there. And then we're able to actually interact in a way that allows us to have a full-on conversation. So it's not even just a chat room. It's like you're able to speak to somebody else on a website. And I think that's probably the easiest way for somebody to mentally get their head around it.
That's an interesting explanation, and it unlocks, it actually transforms completely the way how internet works today, right?
Absolutely. Like, so for example, you go to you go onto a website again, you're navigating the website. So you're clicking, you're going on all these links. But again, when you go into, it's like, just think about going into a website. When you go into a website, instead of having to click, you're able to actually walk around a website. And I think the way I always do it is I try to just take what people know already and then just kind of adjust it to their mindset. And so another way I easily describe, Web 2 to Web 3.0 is, everything on Web 2 is username and password. So for you to be able to access things, it's username and password. Web 3 will be connect to wallet. And so that's all that people need to know. And I think the strange thing that's happening, I would say, in this day and age is that technologies have come out in the past. I'll just take an example. I always take the example of an airplane. Mm-hmm. People go and fly in an airplane. I mean, you're putting your entire life potentially at risk. I mean, if you conceptually think about it, you're getting into a chunk of metal and flying in the middle of the sky and crossing oceans at like however many thousands of feet. Do you have people asking, how does it work? Do they need to know exactly how the airplane works to get onto the airplane? They don't. And the same thing with a car. I mean, I'm just not just because I'm a female. I know nothing how a car works. I just know I switch it on and I start driving. I don't even need to do that anymore. It's just press a button and off I am, right? And so what I find very interesting, and I do think it's reflective of our age, I think it's a reflective of the information that we have in the internet today, that people want to know exactly how blockchain works. They need to know exactly how the back end of code works, the back end of how the metaverse works. Well, why do you need to do that? You just need to know what is going to be my user experience and how is this going to make my life more interesting or going to solve a problem. And that's all you kind of need to know. But I think this is where the problem is with the metaverse is.
And with the wider public, I guess, because such a big hype that happened around Metaverse lately, everyone feels they need to understand. There is a group of people that needs to understand, and they will be the one building the Metaverse. But the everyday users will be interacting with the Metaverse, which is, as many explain, three-dimensional version of internet, whereas we had this two-dimensional version before. We are switching slowly to the three-dimensional. You've decided to start a business in Web 3.0 because probably you believe that Web 3.0 is here to stay. What do you think are the changes that this new tech revolution, Web 3.0 and Metaverse, are bringing to table that are going to secure its longevity?
First what I'll do is I'll talk from an artistic perspective, because obviously, first thing first, I'm an artist. And so for me, having my business in art in Web3, and where it completely changes is, we'll talk about it now being a create website, right? So now let's go with this kind of 3D website. Now, the minute you get into like a 3D website, and with the way technology now, you can do things with either augmented reality or virtual reality, the kind of creativity that it unlocks is next level crazy, right? Because it's not only just about us it's going from a 2D to a 3D, but it's almost like we're currently living a 2D experience, like in IRL, right? In real life, we're living that 2D experience. So what you see is what you get, right? So I'm looking at, you're looking at me. Okay, I'm looking at your clothes, you're looking at my hat, for example, and you're like, oh, that's a cool hat. But actually, with a flick of a button, this hat actually is an augmented reality wearable. So the logo is going to pop out, and it's got 2 to 3 dimensions to this logo. And you've got you're able to interact with it, and you're able to see different dimensions, right? So for me, it's a matter of saying, okay, you've gone from living a very 2D flat to a very 3D, now more of an experience. So from an artistic perspective, it changes things. And I think where it's going to change things is it's going to really unlock, I think it's going to give the creative world the biggest playground. I always say that the only thing that stops you in the Metaverse and Web 3.0 is literally your imagination, because basically everything is possible. So you see, with Mark Zuckerberg, he did that Meta documentary where it says that in the future we're going to have multiple different avatars, and we are going to look different. So as I said, our 2D, our IRL experience of each other is going to be very different to how we experience each other with our avatars. And we kind of see that now, because if you look at, your Instagram profile has got a different vibe to your LinkedIn profile, which has got a different vibe to your Twitter and your TikTok, right? In a way, you've got different personas. Now imagine we're in the Metaverse and your avatar in TikTok is a, half monkey, half unicorn, riding, a whale over New York skyline.
So
do you get my point?
Yeah,
it's just it's just
like
crazy.
Next level crazy.
Yeah.
There are two sides of the Metaverse story that are being discussed. There is one which is like virtual reality sort of avatar, like we are seeing this Fortnite of Web 3.0, and then there is another side of Metaverse, which is more of augmented reality interactiveness around you. Can you bring us closer to these two concepts? Like, 100%. What is a Metaverse? Like, many see Metaverse like, what? I'm going to wear a headset. I'm not going to move from home. I'm going to live in a parallel universe. Yeah. But there is this other type of Metaverse as well. Like, can you demystify these two?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I've only, for me, a lot of my artwork and what I do today is I use augmented reality. And recently I've heard this phrase, open metaverse, which it's like all of these things are now being coined. But a lot of it is what I do is I've started with open metaverse, which is literally having you're looking at the cap, you scan it and augmented reality comes out. I painted one of the world's largest augmented reality murals at the DIFC. So it's 20 meters long, 15 meters high, and you do with augmented reality just from your phone, and you've entered a different world because the entire wall pops out at you, right? And so this is what they call an open metaverse, right? And I feel that the reason why I'm focusing or have been focusing a lot on augmented reality is because you've got to serve it up to people in a way that isn't too scary. Like even doing augmented reality, people are like, whoa. And it's not intrusive. They don't have to put anything on their eyes. And I think they're able to experience. And I think in the future, this is why, you know, all the big companies like Apple, they're all trying to get more into, you know, these augmented reality glasses, because I really do genuinely predict that in the future you will look around a room like we're here today, and you'll look there, and that, like, for example, that tiger will come out. You'll look there and there'll be an advert for Coke, and, you know, like literally Coca-Cola bottle, like Coca-Cola will come flooding out of there. There'll be, you know, an advert for this. And so that will be instinctive. That will become almost second nature for us to see multiple dimensions. But then with the closed metaverse, it's a different story.
Okay, everyone, we'll get back to the conversation in a minute, but I wanted to take a moment to give a shout out to the sponsor of this exclusive mini-series, Microsoft Reactor. If you tuned in for this episode, you're most likely coder, developer, or a data scientist. You probably also believe that upskilling yourself and staying connected with passionate, like-minded people in your industry is important. If that's true, you should definitely check out Microsoft Reactor's Creative Tech Minds community. When you become a part of Reactor's community, you get access to their free educational videos and self-paced learning paths, in-person presentations, workshops, and local meetup groups. These allow you to network with potential mentors, build your tech skills, and connect with fellow coders, cloud developers, AI enthusiasts, and data scientists. If this sounds like something you need, you can find the link to Microsoft Reactor's website in the show notes of this episode. I truly believe this can be super beneficial for your career path or your business, so I encourage you to do so. Now, enjoy the rest of this show. Yeah, and I think like many are referring to the Minority Report with Tom Cruise, like this what was sort of a distant future before. You know, you see these futuristic movies where people are driving Teslas, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically, they're driving Teslas.
Yeah,
and they are surrounded by the digital screens that are kind of almost in the air, and avatars, etc., which look like what is this? This is like 2050s.
Yes,
which doesn't sound so far away now.
Exactly.
2020. But that's basically it. That's the metaverse. One of the ways how metaverse will exist, right?
Exactly, and I mean, this is exactly also what I did with this cap, right? Because I've augmented reality my logo, and I think that in the future, when we're looking and talking about brands, it's every brand is going to have this. You know, and I love to do things first. And so, you know, for me, I'm almost creating this from an artistic perspective so that I can show people what you can do from an artistic perspective, but also what you can do from a branding perspective.
No, absolutely. This is this opens up completely what is visible on the surface now is entertaining side of Metaverse, because usually exactly. That's what attracts attention. But this only unlocks crazy new opportunities for businesses, corporates, brands, etc. And we mentioned corporates before. Where do you see, and we can see a lot of big players rushing into Metaverse now publicly, but even before they were working towards it. There's a lot of investment going on, Microsoft acquiring Blizzard, etc., etc. What have you noticed in that space? And your background is in corporate, so you understand corporations. Like, where do you see the opportunity for them, and why are they tapping into this space?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, I think I always say this to all brands, and full stop, really. In the future, it's not if you're going to have an NFT strategy and a metaverse strategy, it's when you have it. And then when you have it, it's about how meaningful it is for you to have it. And so I think that big brands, it's a very funny situation, because I go and talk a lot to big brands, and I give them, I tell them about the experience, and I give them some kind of a foundation. But I always say, for me to really fully give you a proper understanding on how you could use a proper NFT strategy or proper, metaverse strategy, is you need to go back fundamentally to your business model. So it's literally like having a marketing strategy. It's having a Web3, but Web 3.0 strategy. And I think the opportunity for brands is amazing. But what's happening, I find, is the top guy in the, maybe typically a little bit older,
the gray hair,
is going, we need to be in the metaverse. And and then you've got, actually, a lot of the time, how I've been introduced to brands is actually by the junior staff seeing my stuff on TikTok and Instagram, contacting me, and then managing to convince their senior people that actually I'm the person to talk to. And this is what's been quite interesting. But the senior people are like, yes, perfect, because we need to talk to somebody in the metaverse. So like, they're just like, we have to be in the metaverse. We just don't know how. We have to have an NFT strategy. We just don't know what it is, how it is. And so they just need to be. So what I find is at least they know they need to be talking about it, which is a great start, but they're completely lost. And they're also confused, and they don't want to look silly. And so they're scared to ask silly questions because they are a big leading brand. Yeah. And so, but my thing that I say to everybody is that this is so brand new that everything we do, we can create it, but you just need to have the confidence to know that we can create it together.
Yeah. But I think that these are the signs that we saw with any new emerging, these are the early signs of adoption. All right. There is a lot of noise. Everyone is now aware, or most of the leaders are aware, okay, this is something big. I cannot close my eyes. I need to be open for this. We need to kind of acquire. I'm not willing to risk a lot. So let's go step by step. And it is going to take years and years and years to come in order for us to slowly switch and move towards this complete version, 3.0 version of internet called Metaverse.
Absolutely. But I think my advice to be like brands, especially brands they're big brands and they've got a bit of, I think also the second thing as well with brands is that they want to dip their toe into it, but they don't want to spend a lot of money. But you're like, okay, there's a bit, and so what I would advise brands to do is, especially the bigger brands, is almost segment and know that just go for it. Like, do it, but do it properly, and then be the leading one in the space, because this is such a unique time to be the pioneer in this space. So if you really are a brand that represents the future, that represents technology, that you want to show that you're really forward looking, this is the time to be bold and brash and to just go for it. And because you can safely just even announce, we're just trying it out. And then just even like D&G did it, right? Yeah. So some other, like these big brands are doing it, and respect to them. And I think the people in the Web3 space are encouraging them.
And I think this is the time that can be early access to this kind of technology and successful use cases can have an exponential return on the investment. 100%. So who enters into the game now as early as 2022, soon later will be the early adapter who is already having a headway against the others.
100%. I would say that basically what I'm creating at the moment is I've got my collections and I have my collaborations, and a lot of brands are coming to me. So I decided to create an end-to-end NFT art house concept. Mm-hmm. So brands come, you can come and we talk about everything from the creation side, the technology side, the marketing, the community, and the utility. And that's kind of fits everything you need to do, fits into those categories. And then you're ready to go from there. So that's my advice to people is just go by that process and see what it gets you. Yeah.
What are the other use cases that you noticed or success stories in the metaverse, in the wider metaverse space that you witnessed when it comes to the businesses itself and the opportunities?
Oh, I think, well, I mean,
where do you see the opportunities? The concept of the Change Officer podcast is to introduce or answer the question, what's the change that is coming? All right. So obviously there is a big change happening now, and is going to turn out to be even bigger later on.
So I think, we talked a lot just now about open metaverse. We didn't talk about closed metaverse yet. So closed metaverse is, it doesn't necessarily need to be VR, but it's going into, a metaverse, for example, like Decentraland or Somnium Space or Sandbox. So these now are lands within the metaverse. And you need to either access it by either going actually in, connecting to your wallet, and being able to move around, and or through VR. So, we talked about open metaverse is more accessible and easy to people, but then closed becomes, that just a little bit more different and understanding and that step forward. And that's like this kind of 3D website that we talked about.
Yeah.
So I think where the big change is happening now is obviously first is you had the early adopters, like all of those lands I just mentioned. But now there's going to be a bit of a race to the top. And the race to the top is that what a lot of people are realizing is that you can build your own platform, you can build your own land, and you can build your own metaverse. So tomorrow I could have an Amritaverse, you can have a Bookverse. I like that one, the Bookverse.
Bookverse.
And you can create your own land. And so what is now happening, the change that's now happening is you've got thousands of different metaverses popping up.
Mm-hmm.
So, and in those metaverses, you have different capabilities. And so some people's metaverses are for photography, for example, like you had Simon on the, he's creating his own metaverse where you'll be able to buy the NFT platforms, and then you're able to buy land for you to then show off your photography in that land. There's another metaverse that's going to be very human centric. So I'll tell you a bit more about it, but I've got something very exciting happening with a metaverse called Vault Hill, which is about a human centric metaverse. Then you have, there's going to be so many different, and the way I kind of, and so now consumers are now confused, right? So they're now saying, but where should I buy land? Should I buy land here? Should I buy land there? Where should I buy land?
Should I buy land at all?
Should I buy land? And so the way, what I always like to do is I like to bring it back to the real world, right? So let's go back in time. Before there was flight, back in the caveman days, you would have a location. And in that location, because you couldn't travel, you would have your community, and you would have your neighbors, and you would all have, because you would be eating the same food. And the way you would identify with your community is you would have a flag, you would have a picture of a flag, which would then connect you. But at the same time, you maybe understood that there was Italy over there or France over there, but you couldn't travel there because there was no airplanes back then. So what's happening now is, if we bring it back into 2022, is we have communities that are developing online. They have the flag or the profile pic, for example, Bored Ape Yacht Clubs, or, and so, or a stone or whatever, unicorn or a potato or whatever the case is. These are the new flags that bind the communities together. These communities then create their lands, but then we're still in caveman days because you can't fly between lands because there's no interoperability.
Sure.
But in the future there will be. And so the question the way I always answer the question to people is, what made you decide to live in Dubai in real life? You could live in all these lands in the world, right? We've got Brazil, we've got India, Kenya, Switzerland, London. These are just my lands that I have options from. Why did I choose to live in Dubai? And so this will become how we will decide in the future, just like how we make a decision to
whether
live where we are.
Whether we're going to be nomads or we'll be buying land in some of the
and in a weird way, something like the Bored Ape Yacht Club represents, one of the, how America or Russia, America was one of, they had an organized society with a clear community, with a clear messaging, and they're there, okay, fine, you can call it what it is now, but that's what it is. And so maybe Bored Ape Yacht Club just so happened to be the first, it's the developed country or of the communities that are coming.
Of the Stone Age that we're currently. So basically,
you get my point.
What you're saying is that we are in these early days. We are in the race to the top. There were some early players, which were the Sandbox and the Decentraland, for example, which is not exactly the same like Bored Apes Club, but it's also sort of a community. They will be developing, and a couple of years down the road, we're going to have some major players like US and China.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have some super fancy small players like Luxembourg and other countries. But unlike today, whereas when you enter Metaverse like Sandbox, you can't just jump into a Decentraland with your same wallet or avatar. You'll be able to interoperate between them. And then again, that will be a completely new layer of value providing, but there is still a long way to go. There is still a lot of building to happen until we reach that stage, right?
Absolutely, because at a fundamental thing is what's so important, and this is what a lot of people don't get, is that we're fundamentally reorganizing society globally, and we're reorganizing it according to digital and community environments that literally have no borders, physical borders anymore. And that's why it's so deep. And that's why it's so relevant. And that's why it's such a big paradigm shift. But because it's happening, people don't understand what's really happening here. It's a reorganization of society in a way that's going to change everything. That's my personal belief.
Amrita, thanks for coming on the show.
Very welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed this explosive episode with Amrita. Stay tuned. There is another great one coming soon.